Can you start a business under 18? We're going to answer that question in this video. Okay, let's rock. Let's talk about it. Can you start a business if you're under 18 years old? The short answer is, well, you kind of can, but you kind of can't. And what I mean by that is most states require you to legally be 18 years old in order to register your business. So if you want to put it in your name and you want to have a legal business, one that pays taxes, everything's kosher, legit, you got to be 18 years old. But take it from me, when I was 16 years old, I started my first business. So what I did back then was I put the business in my father's name. I wasn't able to put it in my name. The state of Kansas didn't allow it. And so if you're going to do that, if you're 16, 17 years old or almost 18 and you can't wait, you got ants in your pants and you got to start your business now, just know that you're probably going to end up having to switch it back or change a name or do something like that. But don't let it hold you back. If you were like me, way back when I was a teenager, I was so ahead of my time. I couldn't wait to get my driver's license and be free and drive around and have my own business and start work. I mean, that was just me. And if you're like that and you just want to rip it open, you just want to take on the world, you've got something that you want to share, a business you want to start, then don't let it hold you back. At the bare minimum, even before you turn 18 years old, you can really start building up a lot of customers. And the customers are going to stay with you, most of them, right? If you're really taking care of them and they like you, they like your business. Just because you rename a business or re-register another business, it's not the end of the world, right? So there's a couple ways to do it. Like I said, you can do what I did and you can register the business in one of your parents' name or a family member's name or somebody like that, whoever you trust. Understand that if you do that, they're going to own all legal rights to that business, including the money, okay? So it's going to be in their name. So make sure you get somebody that you trust. I don't want you to pick somebody that you think you're friends with that ends up taking all your money, right? That's not the smart thing to do. But I would have a game plan that if you're 16, like I was, and you get to where you're 18, you transfer that business into your name. It becomes your business. That's what I would highly recommend if it was me, okay? Now, some people, they say, you know what, I'm going to start, ABC LLC or whatever the name of your company ends up being, and I'm just going to test it out for a year or two, and whatever happens, I'm just going to dissolve that business, and I'm going to create a new business and just move all my customers over there. That's a great idea as well. So, can you start a business when you're under 18? Yeah, you could start the business, but if you want it to operate legit, legally, and things like that, you really need to be over 18. So during the time, all the days, months, and years before you turn 18, you can really do a lot of work in your spare time to really get your business set up. So if you're developing a brand new product, like you invented the very first iPhone or whatever, and you're you could still be developing and doing all the back end work getting that set up. So by the time you turn 18, on your 18th birthday, you register that business the second it opens up, you can do that as well. But if you're no, I want to start making money, I'm ready to start rocking and rolling, in order to do that, you got to have a bank account, right? To have all the money, say you're processing credit cards and things like that, that money's going to have to go into a bank account. Well, in order to get a bank account, you got to have an EIN number because a bank is going to require that you have an employment identification number. And also you're going to have some kind of formed business, like a legal business entity that you registered with the Secretary of State in your state. You got to have that. So you got to have that. You got to have your EIN number, and you're also going to want to have an operating agreement. An operating agreement is something that I would recommend setting up with a law firm. So get a lawyer, get an attorney. Usually there's a lot of them that'll charge you a flat fee. They'll say, hey, I'll set up a basic operating agreement for you and have it nice and cover most of the basis for $500 or whatever number that they want. But you need that because that operating agreement is going to detail all the rules of the game of your business. Who has the power to do what? Who can borrow money? Who gets to do all these different tasks? An operating agreement is basically, like I said, if you think of a football game, it's the rules of your business, who controls, who has the power to do, this, that, or whatever. And so if you've got partners, it's very important, especially, I know a lot of young kids, I'm connected to them, I've got younger brothers and sisters and things like that, and cousins, and they've got friends. And so they like to say, oh, I'm going to partner up with my friends and we're going to get this business. And everybody's always excited at the beginning. Everybody always is yeah, we're going to do this together. Well, what happens is over time, people's lives change. People move out of state, people lose interest, people pass away. Whatever happens, the dynamics of your business might change a lot. So it's super important to get that operating agreement set up through a lawyer, through an attorney that's registered in your state, so you've got some ironclad documentation that you can refer back to. I mean, here's an example. Imagine if you set up a business and you have one partner and you say, okay, I'm going to be in charge of these 10 things and you're going to be in charge of these 10 things. Just think about all the possibilities. I mean, hiring employees, right? Who's going to be in charge of going to set up the credit card for the business? Who's going to be in charge of the legal aspects of your business? Whatever it is. But just say, I'm going to do these 10 tasks and you're going to do these 10 tasks. Well, what happens when you get your business going and it's making a little bit of money? Your partner doesn't do anything and says, well, I don't want to show up to work. Or, you say, hey bro, what's going on here? I'm doing all my 10 things. Every day I wake up, I'm working 6-7 days a week, busting my tail. You're not doing anything. You remember what you signed up for? I mean, remember our operating agreement? You said you were going to do these 10 things. Now I'm having to do it. My spouse is having to make up for your lack of work, and we're having to do all the work. We're doing all 20 things that the business needs. You're doing nothing, but you're still taking money. How is that fair? And that's a lot of times how family businesses and any type of business with friends and things like that, that's how those relationships get destroyed, is people aren't being held accountable for what they signed up for. And they change, their interests change, or they don't want to work as much. They justify it however they want. Well, I've been here the whole time. Yeah, but you haven't been putting in your fair share. You skipped 6 months here, you skipped a year here, and we carried the business, things like that. And so when that comes down, you need to have some legal ramifications when it comes down to business. You say, look, here's the deal. I never wanted to do this. You're the one that chose to change. You're the one that chose not to honor what you signed up for. And as a result of not doing those things, we're doing all the work, but yet you're taking some of the money, which isn't fair. So I want you to understand that there's a lot of negative side effects to getting partners in businesses, especially if you don't set it up right. And so I'm so focused right now talking about this operating agreement because it'll give you some ways to make it happen. So in that operating agreement, you might say, hey, you have like a buy-sell clause or some kind of deal where you and your partner upfront agreed that, say, for a specific price, you can buy the other one out. Or if you guys can't come under some kind of an agreement, you go to some third party and they do an appraisal on your business, and then you have the right to buy your partner out. You have to sit down with that attorney and say, hey, I'm concerned, like if something was to happen, I can't predict the future. What's your legal advice? What would you advise us to do with a partnership? What typically, what I ask attorneys is, hey, what are the stuff that can end up kind of biting me in the tail, in the future? What are the things that generally happen in partnerships that can hurt me in the future? Problems, you don't want to go through a lawsuit. You don't want to go through that lengthy process. So just set up all the rules up front so that way you know what's going to happen. So if anything happens crazy in the future, you can just exercise your right. You can say, hey, per the operating agreement that we agreed upon and we set up, this is what we want to do. And you can always amend an operating agreement. So, 3 years passes or 5 years passes and you sit down with your partner and you're like, hey, so that worked when we set the business up. We'd like to make a few changes, and you both agree it, and then you create like an amendment to it. So you go back to the attorney, same one or a different one that you trust or that you feel is good, and you go back to the attorney and say, hey, we've been in business for 5 years, and so we set up all these rules, but we've thought about these like 17 things. And we want to add clauses for these 17 scenarios so that way each of us are protected or whatever. And that's the best way to do it, okay? So let's go back to the original question. Can you start a business when you're under 18? The answer is yes. The question is, if you're not legal of age, whose name are you going to put it into? And when you turn 18, are you going to transfer the ownership of that business into your name? Are you going to create a new company, a new LLC, or new entity, something? What are you going to do with it? Okay, so I hope I brought value to you. I hope this helped you out. If you liked it, please share it with your friends and comment. I'd love to hear your feedback. And remember, in life, no matter how hard it gets, never give up, keep pushing, and be the hustler.